Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the BLM's virtual public meeting for the Elizabeth Solar Project Environmental Assessment. We are going to give folks a few minutes here to join the meeting, and then we'll begin the PowerPoint presentation shortly, so please stay tuned. I do want to note that closed captioning is available by selecting the closed caption icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen if you are using the Zoom web portal or Zoom app on your computer. Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the BLM's virtual public meeting for the Elizabeth Solar Project Environmental Assessment. We are going to give folks a few minutes here to join the meeting, and then we'll begin the PowerPoint presentation shortly, so please stay tuned. I do want to note that closed captioning is available by selecting the closed caption icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen if you are using the Zoom web portal or Zoom app on your computer. Next slide, please. Again, welcome everyone to today's meeting for the BLM's Elizabeth Solar Project Environmental Assessment. My name is Lily Benson and I am with AECOM, a contractor for the BLM, and I am going to be one of your meeting facilitators today. Next slide, please. Before we move into opening remarks and introductions by the BLM, I'll provide a quick overview of the Zoom features we will be using tonight. First, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the project's e-planning website for anyone unable to join us tonight. We've placed a link to the project website in the chat. Closed captioning is available for this meeting. If closed captioning does not appear automatically on your screen, click on the live transcript or CC icon at the bottom of your screen. You may need to toggle your mouse, or if you're joining from a mobile device, tap your screen to see the menu options. Note that closed captioning is a feature on the Zoom platform and does not necessarily represent an accurate transcript of the meeting. If you are having technical difficulties, you may enter any technical issues into the chat box on your Zoom toolbar or email ali.yamnitsky@aecom.com. That's ALLI.YAMNITSKY@aecom.com. We'll put that email address in the chat box for your convenience. We will be using the Q&A feature as one means of receiving your questions tonight. You may enter a question at any time during the meeting using the Q&A icon on your Zoom toolbar. To ask a written question, click on the Q&A icon and type your question into the Q&A box that will appear on your screen. Once you've entered your question, click send. All questions will be answered during the Q&A session after our presentation. Next slide, please. Our meeting agenda includes a welcome and introductions by the BLM, a presentation on the Elizabeth Solar Project and the BLM's National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, process, and a question and answer session followed by closing remarks. We want to note that formal comments, that is, comments you would like addressed in the final environmental assessment and included in the project record, are not being taken tonight. We will provide instructions on how to submit your formal comments in writing during tonight's meeting. I will now turn the meeting over to Ray Castro with the Bureau of Land Management for opening remarks. Next slide, please.
Good evening. I'm Ray Castro, Field Manager for the Yuma Field Office, and I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening for the Elizabeth Solar Project. During this project, the BLM Yuma Field Office has engaged with tribal, federal, state, and local governments, local communities, stakeholder groups, and industry as well as we evaluate this project. So for this meeting, we encourage you to participate and submit comments with this draft environmental assessment. So thank you for joining.
Thank you, Ray. My name is Erica Stewart. I am the project manager for the Bureau of Land Management, Colorado River District, and the project lead for the Elizabeth Solar Project. Thank you for joining us this evening. With me tonight, I have a number of BLM specialists who've been involved throughout the development of the Elizabeth Solar Environmental Assessment, and we are here to help answer your questions. We also have a number of members of the project proponent team and their NEPA contractor who will be introducing themselves later in the presentation. Our goal tonight is to provide an overview of the project and the EA analysis, answer your questions about the project, and provide information on how to submit comments. Next slide, please. The Elizabeth Solar Project is a 270 megawatt photovoltaic solar and battery energy storage project near the town of Dayton in Yuma County, Arizona. The proposed project would be developed on BLM managed lands within the 2013 designated Agua Caliente Solar Energy Zone. The Solar Energy Zone, or SEZ, is an area that the BLM has determined is well suited for utility scale production of solar energy, and BLM leases says lands to companies through a competitive bid process. The Agua Caliente Solar Energy Zone was leased to Elizabeth Solar LLC in September of 22. It is required to comply with the National Environmental Policy Act in order to receive a notice to proceed. The BLM published environmental assessment, or EA, per the requirements of the National Environmental Policy Act on July 25th, 2024. The EA describes the proposed project, potential effects, and project alternatives. The purpose of the BLM's environmental review is to evaluate the applicant's plan of development to construct, operate, and eventually decommission the proposed project within the Agua Caliente SEZ. Public involvement is a crucial component of the NEPA process, and we welcome your questions tonight, as well as your substantive comments in writing. This is really important, having those comments in writing. As mentioned, comments submitted in writing will be included in the project record. There are a few methods by which you may provide those written comments. Next slide, please. Written comments may be submitted electronically via the participation portal on the Project ePlanning website, by email, U.S. Postal Mail, or by hand delivery to the Yuma Field Office. Comments must be submitted by August 26, 2024 to be considered in the development of the final EA. The website, email, and mailing address are listed on the screen and will be shown again at the end of the presentation. We'll also show you how to submit comments on the ePlanning website towards the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. So the National Environmental Policy Act of 1969, or NEPA, you've heard this term a couple times already, was establishing a framework for evaluating the impacts of federal actions on the environment. NEPA requires federal agencies to consider the environmental effects of proposed actions as a part of their decision-making process. Federal agencies are required to coordinate with other federal agencies, state and local governments, tribal nations, and members of the public that may have an interest in the proposal. The goal of NEPA is to make informed decisions about proposed actions that consider the human and natural environment and to involve the public in the process. NEPA provides several options for impact assessment and disclosure depending upon the anticipated level of impact of a proposed action. The BLM examined the proposed project, including measures to reduce or avoid impacts, and determined that an EA was the appropriate level of NEPA review for the Elizabeth Solar project. The EA evaluates potential impacts on a wide range of human and natural resource areas, including ecological, economic, and social issues identified through scoping. The EA evaluates the proposed action and alternatives on the basis of direct, indirect, and cumulative effects. Effects are described in terms of changes that would occur on the physical environment, such as land, water, air, the biological environment, plants and animals, and the economic and social components of the human environment. We are here tonight to answer your questions and describe how you can comment on the proposed project and analysis within the EA. Next slide, please. Okay, so the public, all of you here tonight, along with everybody else, has been invited to comment on the proposed project during the scoping period, which was held from October 1st through October 30th in 23. The input received during scoping was used in developing these alternatives and issues evaluated in the environmental assessment. The BLM issued a press release on July 25th announcing that the EA was available for public review and comment. This began a 30-day public comment period. The BLM will review all comments received on the EA, and all substantive comments will be considered and addressed in developing the final EA, a finding of no significant impact or FONSI, and a decision record. The decision record will document the rationale for the BLM's decision and identify if any additional stipulations to the lease will be required. It will also document any decisions the BLM makes about a right-of-way request by the project proponent to connect its project to an existing GenTie line that was constructed as part of the adjacent solar facility. Next slide, please. The proposed project would help meet the demand for clean energy, low carbon electric power in a manner that is consistent with federal policy mandates and incentives for development of new renewable energy resources, while avoiding and minimizing potential adverse impacts on the environment. President Biden set goals to achieve a carbon pollution-free power sector by 2035 and a net zero carbon economy by 2050. Per Section 205 of Executive Order 1408, the Department of Interior is identifying steps to accelerate responsible renewable energy production on public lands and waters to support these goals. Next slide. Okay, there are several federal, state, and local permits, authorizations, and approvals that may be required for this project. Besides the BLM, agencies involved in some way include the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Arizona State Lands Department, Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, and Yuma County. Next slide, please. To provide context for the description of the proposed action and project alternatives evaluated in the EA, it's helpful to understand the background of the Agua Caliente SEZ. In 2012, the BLM's Western Solar Plan designated solar energy zones and identified design features and best management practices for reducing or avoiding impacts from solar development on BLM-managed lands in the Western U.S. This plan designated 2 solar energy zones in Arizona. In 2013, the BLM's Arizona Restoration Design Energy Project, or RDEP, designed a 3rd Arizona solar energy zone, the Agua Caliente SEZ, and identified design features and best management practices for reducing or avoiding impacts specific to projects on BLM-managed lands in Arizona. The Agua Caliente SEZ consists of 2 non-contiguous eastern and western parcels surrounding the already constructed Agua Caliente solar facility. In 2016, BLM's regional mitigation strategy for the Arizona solar energy zones evaluated potential direct, indirect, and cumulative impacts from full build-out of each of these 3 solar energy zones in Arizona, including the Agua Caliente SEZ. This strategy document recommended non-development areas within each solar energy zone to avoid impacts on a variety of sensitive resources. Next slide, please. In December of 2021, the BLM held a competitive auction for public lands in Arizona solar energy zones. Elizabeth Solar LLC, a subsidiary of Leeward Renewable Energy, was a successful bidder for lands in the Agua Caliente solar energy zone and subsequently entered into a lease with the BLM to develop the proposed Elizabeth Solar project. Upon lease award, the project proponent submitted a plan of development for a 350 megawatt PV solar facility utilizing both the eastern and western SEZ parcels. This proposed project layout shown here maximized the development of solar arrays in the 2 SEZ parcels while avoiding development in BLM recommended non-development areas shown in green on this map. This included avoidance of floodplains in both SEZ parcels, sensitive resource areas in the eastern SEZ parcel, and lands with wilderness characteristics in the western SEZ parcel. During review of the initial plan of development and early discussions with the State Historic Preservation Office, tribal nations, and state and local stakeholders, the BLM and project proponent identified additional potential resource concerns associated with development of the eastern SEZ parcel. In particular, tribal representatives expressed concerns that the recommended non-development area within the eastern SEZ parcel was insignificant to adequately avoid impacts on culturally sensitive resources. Stakeholders also shared concerns that development of the eastern SEZ parcel would impede access to recreational opportunities and wildlife management activities on lands north of the SEZ. As a result of these concerns, the project proponent elected to forego development of the eastern SEZ parcel and submitted a revised plan of development for a 270 megawatt facility utilizing only the western solar energy zone parcel. This is the proposed action analyzed in the environmental assessment. Next slide, please. Before I turn the presentation over to Elizabeth Solar LLC to describe the proposed project, I'll provide a little more background on the Agua Caliente SEZ itself. In the 2012 RDEP EIS, the BLM evaluated 6 alternative SEZ boundaries ranging in size from about 2,700 acres to over 20,000 acres. The BLM ultimately reduced the SEZ boundary to 2,550 acres to address the concerns related to cultural resources, riparian areas, and wildlife habitat and migration. As described above, the project proponent has elected to avoid the eastern SEZ parcel, further reducing the area under consideration in the SEZ to 1,666 acres. As you can see in the photos, the western SEZ parcel is largely devoid of vegetation, except along some of the drainages and swales. Most of the site is characterized as barren and consists mainly of desert pavement interspersed with some low-density vegetation. The lands show evidence of dispersed camping and OHV use. There's no grazing allotments, mineral rights, designated routes, or special designations overlapping the western SEZ parcel. And the BLM removed the Special Recreation Management Area designation when designating the SEZ back in 2016. In addition, the SEZ parcel is adjacent to the existing Agua Caliente solar facility to the east and the newly constructed White Wing Ranch solar facility to the northeast. Both of these solar facilities were constructed on private lands that were formerly used for irrigated agriculture. Now I'll turn the presentation over to Patrick Nolan of Elizabeth Solar LLC, the project proponent for the proposed Elizabeth Solar project, to review more project details. Next slide.
Thank you, Erica. Just confirming everybody can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick Nolan, and I'm the project developer for the Elizabeth Solar project. As Erica described, Elizabeth Solar LLC was a successful bidder in a competitive auction held in late 2021 and was granted a lease by BLM to develop a utility-scale photovoltaic solar facility in the Agua Caliente solar energy zone. The proposed project is an up to 270 megawatt alternating current PV solar facility and potential battery energy storage system that would be constructed within the 1,666 acre western SEZ parcel. The power produced by the project would be conveyed to the regional power grid via the Hoodoo Wash Switchyard, which is located just off to the southeast of the solar energy zone parcel. One major benefit of this project is no incremental gen-tie line will need to be constructed associated with Elizabeth Solar. Instead, the project will use the existing White Wing Ranch gen-tie line to convey the power to the Hoodoo Wash Switchyard. And this gen-tie line sits within the western solar energy zone parcel as shown on the map. Access to the project site will be via Interstate 8 up Avenue 64E through Palomas Road, and then ultimately Palomas Harquahala Road, and then private access easements from there. The project incorporates a suite of design features, best management practices, and other measurements to avoid or minimize impacts on the environment during construction, operation, and decommissioning. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. In general terms, a solar photovoltaic facility operates by grouping PV panels into solar arrays. For this particular project, the solar arrays will be on a single axis tracking system that follows the sun's movement across the sky. So they'll generally face south and kind of move east to west throughout the day. They'll generate direct current electricity, which will be delivered to power conversion stations that convert the current into alternating current. At that point, the AC energy is sent through collection line to the project substation, where it's stepped up to a higher interconnection voltage and transported via that GenTie line to the local power grid. For this project, we're also considering a battery storage system that would be located next to that project substation. Aside from the specific renewable generating equipment, the project would include a number of ancillary facilities, including a perimeter fence for security, internal access roads, a little bit of lighting, and potentially an O&M or operations and maintenance building. Next slide, please. All right. While the proposed action avoids a number of identified resource concerns by excluding the eastern portion of the SES parcel, internal conversations with BLM, other stakeholders, and tribal nations led the team to examine ways to further reduce project impacts. Under the reduced grading alternative, the project would be configured to avoid development within several drainages on the western side of the project, to reduce grading and retain vegetation in these areas. You can see some of the avoided areas on the western side of the project in the map on this slide. It would also use a temporary construction access route across Arizona state lands to more directly access the project site during construction. This alternative examines the trade-offs of retaining some higher value vegetated habitat in exchange for allowing a limited amount of disturbance and structure placement within portions of the BLM recommended non-development areas where field surveys have identified a lower resource value. This project alternative would produce 250 megawatts of solar capacity instead of the 270, but it would reduce air quality impacts during construction and allow some of the limited vegetation on the project site to remain. It would also include additional conservation measures as described in the next slide. If we could jump there, please. Thank you. Under the project alternative, we're proposing to use enhanced methods to improve retention of native vegetation, wildlife habitat, soils, seed banks, and soil crust. Some of these include natural check dams to slow water in the avoided drainages and vertical mulching to improve soil health and protect seed banks during reclamation. Both of these measures would use woody vegetation removed during construction and stockpiled on the project site. We're also looking at methods to encourage the return of desert pavement to the surface in areas that are temporarily disturbed by construction activities. This includes salvaging and stockpiling rock mulch on site to be used once construction is complete. We'll also host research into biocrust restoration if biocrust is found on the site. Next slide, please. Thank you. Under the proposed action or project alternative, either way, we would anticipate an average of 250 to 300 construction jobs during construction, while those jobs would peak at about 600 jobs during solar panel installation. After construction, during operation, we would anticipate approximately 5 full-time positions related to operations and maintenance. We estimate that up to 600 acre-feet of water might be needed during construction, primarily for dust control. We plan to source that water from existing wells on LRE's adjacent White Wing Ranch solar facility. And water use after construction during operations will be quite minimal, estimated at about 4 acre-feet per year. And if we could go to the next slide for schedule. Thank you. Overall construction period under either alternative is estimated to be approximately 15 to 18 months, with a desired in-service date for the project towards the end of 2026. In general, pre-construction activities such as engineering, surveys, pre-clearing surveys, that would all occur in kind of the front half of 2025. We would expect construction of the facility to commence kind of early to mid 2025, concluding later in 2026. Plant energization and commissioning would occur towards the end of 2026, and we would expect the facility would operate until at least 2052, which is the current term of the lease with BLM. With that, I will now turn it over to Amy Cordell, who's the contractor preparing the EA, to review the environmental resources.
Thanks, Patrick. Can we go to the next slide? So in the EA, we evaluated a range of environmental resource topics. Because the proposed project is going to be in a SES, some resources were identified as having a lower level of concern, and we analyzed those in brief. Resources identified as having a higher potential during scoping were analyzed in detail. I'll provide an overview of some of these resources. Though vegetation on the project site is pretty limited, as Erica said, a vegetation cover assessment was performed that showed almost 90% of the site is barren. Vegetation that does occur is mostly concentrated along the washes and drainages on the western side of the site. There are no listed candidate or proposed special status plant species and no BLM sensitive plant species on the site. There are some noxious weeds and invasive plants that have been observed, and so the project will have to implement some measures to minimize their spread. Wildlife in the area is consistent with types of wildlife typical of this eco-region. The BLM's rapid ecological assessment for the area identified the SES as having a low terrestrial intactness, and the RDEP EIS characterized these lands as having low conservation potential. So these factors were considered by the BLM when designating the SES. Wildlife connectivity was also considered when designating the SES. The BLM avoided the major washes in the area, notably Hoodoo Wash to the west, and in citing the SES adjacent to an existing solar development. Air quality in the area is good, and background noise levels are low. The nearest residences to the project site are about 2 miles away. The project site, as Erica mentioned earlier, is adjacent to private lands that were previously used for agriculture. So the groundwater use in the area now is much lower than it was under historic conditions. Next slide, please. So one of the topics that we analyzed in detail was the potential for special status species to occur in the area. So there are 3 species that have the potential to occur. These include Sonoran pronghorn, Yuma ridgeway rail, and monarch butterfly. So the pronghorn and the monarch butterfly have no habitat on the site, and none have been identified within 5 miles or more of the project area. Yuma ridgeway rail may transit the area, and so we've looked at that species in a little more detail. Golden eagle and some bat species might forage in the area, but there's no suitable nesting habitat on or near the project site. The project site has no perennial water sources and no mapped floodplains, no mapped wetlands. There are floodplains on the site, but these areas were avoided by the proposed action and largely avoided by the project alternative, as Patrick described. The project area has a long cultural history, and there are known culturally sensitive resources that we are avoiding by foregoing development of the eastern SES parcel. Cultural resource surveys were done for the western SES parcel, and those identified one site that's eligible for listing on the National Register. So the project is going to avoid this site, but we're also proposing mitigation to address any residual adverse effects that might occur. There are no developed recreation sites and no designated OHV routes on the project site. Now, the site is used for dispersed camping and to access areas near Hoodoo Wash. Access to recreational opportunities and hunting in areas north of the SEZ will remain open via the Arizona Peace Trail, which runs through the eastern SEZ parcel. We also examined visual resources in the area. The site is classified by the BLM as a VRM, that's Visual Resource Management Class 4. That's the site, the classification that has the lowest visual sensitivity and allows the most level of change. Let's go to the next slide. So the EA analyzed potential direct, indirect, and cumulative effects of the no action alternative, the proposed action, and the reduced grading alternative across all the resource topics that I just talked about on the prior couple slides. The analysis included the potential effects of each phase of the project, including construction, operation and maintenance, and decommissioning, and also describes whether impacts would be short-term or long-term. We took into account the design features, BMPs, and other measures that Elizabeth Solar is proposing and has committed to as a means of avoiding or minimizing impacts. Next slide. The design features, BMPs, and other measures developed during this NEPA process will become part of the project requirements in the BLM's final decision document for the project. These measures are going to be documented in a number of management plans you can see here on the screen, and they'll be included as appendices to the final plan of development. Next slide. So I wanted to go over one more time how you can submit comments on the project. As mentioned by Erica, written comments for the CA may be submitted electronically via BLM's e-planning website, by email, by postal mail, or hand delivery to the BLM's Yuma field office. Comments need to be submitted by August 26 to be considered in the development of the final EA and decision record. Next slide. Thanks. So on the screen now, I wanted to share with you the e-planning website for the proposed project. The link for the website was added to the chat. Information on the project can be found by accessing the left toolbar shown here in gray. The EA, Plan of Development, and Technical Studies are shown in the Documents tab. This tab also contains scoping materials and is where public comment materials will be posted. The Maps and Map Data folders contain project maps and also shape files and a KMZ for the proposed project. The How to Get Involved folder contains information on this public involvement process. Next slide. To submit a written comment, you would go to the e-planning site and choose the Participate Now folder, which takes you to this screen. Click on the green Participate Now button, and it will take you to a new page to start submitting your comment, which is shown on the next slide. Please. This page lets you type in your comment in the comments. You can also upload a file by choosing the orange Browse Files button and selecting a file from your computer for upload. Once you've typed in your comment or selected a file for upload, scroll down the page and you'll see a section titled Submitter. You can enter your name if desired and check the box if you would like to receive future notifications about this project. Select the orange Preview button to review your comment, and an orange Submit button will then appear. If you select that button, a receipt will pop up that will let you know your comment was submitted. If we have time after the Q&A section, session will give a live demonstration of the e-planning site. Next slide, please. So that concludes the presentation portion of the meeting. We're going to move now into a Q&A session. To introduce the Q&A session, I'm going to turn the meeting back over to our moderator, Lily Benson. Next slide.
Thank you, Amy. We will now begin the question and answer session for this evening's meeting. We have about 45 minutes or so for questions and answers, and we can stay online a bit longer if we haven't gotten through everyone's questions. If you would like to ask a question tonight, you can do so by typing your question into the Q&A box or by clicking the raise hand icon to enter the queue for a verbal question. The Q&A and raise hand functions can be found on the bottom of your screen. If you're joining us online from a mobile device, you may need to tap your screen to see the Q&A and raise hand icons appear. If you're joining us by telephone, dial *9 to enter the queue for a verbal question. You will then need to dial *6 to unmute yourself once we've called on you. We will start by answering pre-submitted questions and questions that were submitted during the presentation. After that, I will call on individuals in the order they entered the queue. If you're joining by telephone, I will call on you based on the last 4 digits of your phone number. If you've already had a chance to ask a question and have re-entered the queue for another question, I will call on individuals we haven't heard from first and then circle back to you as time permits. Please remember that this opportunity is for questions only. For comments, please submit them in writing via the project website, email, postal mail, or hand delivery. With that, we will go ahead and begin the question and answer session. Okay, the first question is the project prevailing wage and follow Davis-Bacon Act? And I will go to Patrick Nolan for the answer.
Thanks, Lily. If whoever submitted the question would like to follow up more offline, let me know. I believe Davis-Bacon Act is probably non-applicable because it's not a public work project and is instead being advanced by a private proponent. But on the prevailing wage piece, yes, the project absolutely will pay prevailing wage.
Thank you for that answer, Patrick. We are developing an answer to our next question. If you just give us a moment. Okay, looks like we have that answer ready now. So our next question is, would preference be given to LDES for solar and wind sites if the technology was safer than lithium ion? And I'll turn that back over to Patrick.
Thanks, Lily. I'm pretty sure LDES here refers to long duration energy storage. And if so, yeah, it's an exciting technology that we're keeping our eye on. To my knowledge, haven't done any commercial scale LDES yet, but yeah, very interested in the technology. And excited to see where it goes and happy to follow up offline.
Thank you for your answer, Patrick. Our next question is, which Yuma County roads will be utilized to access construction sites? And I'll turn that one back over to Patrick.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think we might have hit on this one before, but the intended primary access would be off of Interstate 8 and then going north on Avenue 64E to Palomas Road, at which point we would go into Palomas Harquahala Road and private access easements from there. As I think we mentioned previously before, we're also exploring an alternative access, sort of a more direct access route through Arizona state land. Hopefully that answers the question, but again, happy to address any follow-up offline.
Thank you for that answer, Patrick. Our next question is, Will this infrastructure require any kind of visual impact mitigation on them to help them blend into the desert environment? And we'll turn that over to Amy for the answer.
Thanks, Lily. The project is considering BMPs and design features to help minimize the visual effect. RDEP requires these for projects in the Agua Caliente SEZ and throughout Arizona. So those will be applied, and in the EA, they're listed in Appendix B. I'll also note that there is a visual study that is available on ePlanning, and it shows visual simulations of the project from different key observation points. So you can take a look and see how the project will change the visual environment.
Thank you for that answer, Amy. Our next question is, would the project permit a pilot 1MW10HR energy storage system? And I will turn it over to Patrick for that answer.
Yeah, and thanks again to whoever submitted this question. Color me intrigued. Let's follow up offline. I'm not sure whether it would be applicable for this project or maybe other opportunities across our development efforts. But yeah, like I said, we're excited about and monitoring the developments closely on long duration energy storage.
Thank you for that answer, Patrick. And we do have some more questions in the queue. We're working to identify some answers. We appreciate your patience while we get those answers developed. Okay, looks like we have our next question. Where is this power going from the project? Yuma County or other areas of Arizona? And we will go to Patrick for the answer.
Yeah, so I think it's ultimately a little bit TBD based on commercial agreements yet to be signed. The power will flow from the project to the Hoodoo Wash Switchyard, which is in the APS service territory. We've yet to sign a power purchase agreement for the project, but we're hoping that we can find a customer in Arizona for the power.
Thank you for that answer, Patrick. And again, we are still working on developing answers to some of the questions in the queue, so we appreciate your patience. Okay, our next question is, where are the closest ACECs to the project site and what are they managing for? And I'll turn it over to Erica to answer this question.
Hello. We actually don't have any ACECs in that immediate area that we're looking at for this project. And so if you have some questions for some of the surrounding BLM managed lands, we have your contact information and can reach out individually.
Thank you for the answer, Erica. And then our next question is, with regard to the biological analyses, the draft EA references a biological evaluation and a biological assessment. The website only provides access to the biological evaluation. Where can the public access the biological assessment document? And I will turn it over to Amy to answer this question.
So I'm actually going to take this one. So the final biological report is posted on the ePlanning page that's currently publicly available. The biological assessment is used as part of the consultation under the Endangered Species Act. And when we are complete with that process, we'll make that available to the public at that point.
Thank you for providing that answer, Erica. And it looks like that was the last question we have in queue. So just to reiterate, if you do wish to ask a question, you can go ahead and raise your hand or submit a question through the Q&A box, and we will develop an answer for you. Okay, our next question is, will a transcript or an audio recording of this session be available? And I will turn it over to Amy for the answer.
Thanks, Lily. We will have a posting of the recording. It will be on BLM's YouTube site, and we'll have a link to the recording on the ePlanning site. We'll also plan to post a transcript to the ePlanning site as soon as we have it ready.
Thank you, Amy. Our next question is, will the biological assessment be available before the comment deadline? And I will turn it over to Erica for the answer.
We release those once the consultation is complete. If you want to reach out to me individually, we can see what you're looking for so you can get the information you need.
Thank you, Erica. We do have some more questions in the queue, and we are working to identify answers for those. So again, we appreciate your patience in this virtual space. Looks like we have our next question. What information was used to determine the ecological connectivity needs for the project area and SEZ? And I will turn it over to Harry for the answer.
We utilized movement information collected on Sonoran pronghorn for the area, and then other general information about gathered during wildlife surveys.
Thank you for that answer, Harry. And we have addressed all the questions we've received so far, but we will continue to accept questions both verbally and through the Q&A box until 6:30 Mountain Standard Time, sorry. If anyone has a question, please feel free to raise your hand or submit it in the Q&A box. Thank you. Okay, one last reminder that we will be here to accept any further questions, both verbally and through the Q&A box until we don't receive any more questions. If anyone does have a question, feel free to please raise your hand or submit a question in the Q&A box. Thank you. Okay, and it looks like we haven't received any further questions. So can we go to the next slide, please? We thank you for joining us tonight. A recording of this presentation will be posted to the Project ePlanning website. Please remember, written comments for consideration in the development of the final EA must be submitted by August 26, 2024. Written comments may be submitted via the project website, email, postal mail, or hand delivery to the addresses shown on the screen. And with that, I will turn it back over to Ray with the BLM for closing remarks. Next slide, please.
Good evening, all, and thank you for joining. Thank you for your participation, and we look forward to hearing from you in those comments. Once again, you have until August 26th for comment submittal. And thank you for joining. We appreciate you.